Hello and welcome to another episode of the Father Support Network. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Wampa. Today is a very special day. It's the 19th of November 2024, and it is the International Men's Day. But this is perfect for our subject matter, and I've just decided to just freestyle today and then to talk about, to anchor this on the topic of this year's International Men's Day, which is a positive male role down. And like I said, I'll just first and touch upon a couple of things, a couple of current affairs that are relevant to this conversation. It's quite amazing that we would have a day that is set aside to celebrate men, and also to look at the role of men and their well-being. This is very, very important because we live in a world where, despite the progress we've made as a society in terms of gender relations or gender parity, a lot of the issues we have in this contemporary world, are still divided along gender. And one thing that comes to mind to that is very profound is the recently concluded elections in America, where President Trump emerged a winner for the Republican Party, winning against the Democratic nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris. So you wonder why this is relevant. This is relevant because if you look at the issues that were discussed in the campaign and look at the voting pattern, you will understand that this is the summit of what I call a gender war, an unnecessary gender war that has been brewing in our modern world. That is a dangerous slope. So what we've seen with President Trump is, mostly you see male white, you see even female white, but you could see the manosphere, people they call the manosphere, like the communities like the Joe Rogans and people that express that that emphasize the essence of being manly, and looking at the threat that a man or men face in our modern day world. And if you look at Kamala Harris, you see talking about reproductive health, looking about the right to abortion and all of that. So in a way, you see, even if it's not clearly stated, you can clearly see a distinct gender war. You can clearly see that our society is polarized along male issues, masculine issues, and feminine issues, where again, we could also talk about, if we talk about role models, I could also remember the influential or the popular influential Andrew Tate, and the backlash that he's faced all around the Western world for what he considers toxic masculinity, and how he's negatively influencing young boys and young men towards misogyny and all of that towards women. Then I can also put in that mix the Canadian psychologist, I remember the name, Jordan Peterson, Peter Jordanson, in that instance as well, where they touched upon this kind of like issues where there might be some kind of like forced dichotomy, forced gender war. But in the spirit of the Men's Day, in the spirit of having a role model, in the spirit of promoting men's well-being, in the spirit of understanding the role a man plays, I think we should take a minute and sit back and really look at, for instance, take the election victory of Donald Trump and say, what does it represent? Rather than, we should take a somber reflection. We should really, really reflect on it and say, there is a profound statement that Donald Trump's victory makes. And that profound statement is, it is real. Whether it is, people do see that a man seems to be emasculated, that the man's role, the man's position, the man's perceived position or role in the society looks to be undermined. And you could bring out statistics, you could look at the rate of suicide, you could look at issues that have been promoted, and see if these issues, if the concerns about men are being relegated. You could talk about issues of mental health, men's mental. These are not really, being talked about often. We talk about this abuse that men face. And men also face abuse when it comes to sexual violence abuse in conflict zones. Men and boys face this abuse. We talk about even in the household, domestic abuse. Men face this, but men hardly talk about this, and we hardly also put this in policy. We hardly emphasize these things. So also I think society needs to sit back and look at the human rights of everybody, but the human rights of men. And I think we can achieve human rights for everybody, for every man, for every woman, every child, without elevating one over the other or prioritizing one over the other. There's a woman's right, a woman's safety. It's not any more important than a man's rights and a man's safety. So when we can say in societies, maybe women could be vulnerable. We could cite instances where women have, they could say typically women are victims of domestic abuse, but I don't think that is enough for us to make exclusive or exclusionary policies that then downplay the situation or the abuse that men face. So in talking about men's well-being, in promoting men's well-being, we need to, as a society, take a holistic approach to this. Take a holistic assessment of how did we get to this place where we've created these kind of gender war. Like I've always said, there's the place of a woman, and how you define that, I won't get into all of that, because you might say, who is a woman, who is a man, but we can't get into all of those technicalities. We understand I'm talking about a biological man or a biological woman, but we don't even get into that. We even come to the father and mother in a functional sense. There is a role for everybody, and there's a position. So when we create these kind of wide open spaces, when we talk about achieving parity or achieving equality in gender, we don't necessarily then need to in trying to achieve that then create a conflict between the genders that then transcends in the home, transcends out of the home, transcends into society, into the politics in the homes, and then creates situations where the society is sickened. The home is sickened. You come to the house where fathers are not there. Maybe fathers are alienated. The role of the father is very, very key in raising and nurturing a child. So the father is important. So we need to talk about that. The father is also important we talk about homelessness. We talk about economic, when men, certain ethnicity or a certain demographic, a certain class do not have access or have economic power. That also affects their ability, and that also creates an unhealthy society. So it's time we need to look at these issues, parental alienations, look at issues of homelessness, issue of mental health, and put men at the center as well. So, but at one point there needs to be interaction. At one point there needs to be the women. We create a lot of women group, a lot of men stuff, but we need to talk to each other. They need to speak to each other. They can't speak in isolation. But I think it's in the spirit of the International Men's Day, we should reflect on the role of a man, we should do a reassessment of what a man is in the society, the relevance of a man in the home, the relevance of a man in the society, in building a nation, building a healthy, viable nation, a sustainable nation for the generations to come. So I think, not those things, I believe, this is the right time for us to really, create policies that are equitable, policies that captures all everyone, policies that captures all our needs, policies that responds to the needs of the man, the needs of the woman, the needs of the child. But yes, I think this is about time to put man in the position that man needs to be. So we need to have that conversation. So I think, my message today, if nothing, is a man's right, a man's happiness, a man's well-being is as important as a woman's well-being. So we should, as a society, sit down and reflect and think and, move away from the false gender war that we've created, because this is very dangerous for our society and for the health of any nation. So yes, I wish every father in the house, I wish every man, happy Men's Day, and stay blessed.